Who did that? No problems. Doing great here.
Combat alert complete.
When writing about video games, one of the trickiest challenges is knowing how much jargon I can use. Too much and I risk alienating anyone who doesn't keep tabs on every niche release or design trend. Too little and I lose all the chewy detail that makes the conversation worth having. It's something I think about whenever I want to use the term immersive sim. Metroidvania and roguelike at least carries some built-in meaning. A Metroidvania typically involves exploration, backtracking, and ability gating, a design set by Nintendo Super Metroid back in 1994. A roguelike signals procedural generation and permadeath, where every failure teaches you how to play. Their genre is shaped by their mechanical cores, even if their aesthetics vary wildly. Immersive sim, on the other hand, isn't really a genre at all. It's more like a design philosophy, or better yet, a seasoning. Something you sprinkle onto another genre until it tastes like System Shock. It's where, if the world runs on electricity, you can shut off the generator. If the alarm system's triggered by sound, you can throw something to distract a guard, or jam the signal entirely. Fire propagates, water conducts, and enemies don't just detect you, they respond, sometimes unpredictably. It's less like acting in a play where everything is scripted, and more like improvising inside a living diorama. Things won't always go realistically, but they'll feel real in the moment. That sim approach unfortunately creates games that don't really look alike, sound alike, or play alike. BioShock, Thief, Prey, Teardown, Breath of the Wild, all wildly different games, united by a shared belief that systems are more interesting than scripts. But because they are all so different, it's hard to find a single game that acts as a true entry point. One that doesn't try to reflect every immersive sim, but still cuts straight to the heart of what makes them so fun. Which brings us quite nicely to Skin Deep. If you've ever bounced off immersive sims because they felt too confusing or dense, then maybe Skin Deep is for you. It's not the biggest nor the prettiest, but it might just be the most welcoming. It doesn't babysit you with mission briefings or scripted tutorials, but it also doesn't throw you into a meat grinder and expect you to come out a master of stealth. Instead, it hands you a bunch of slapstick systems and says, go nuts. Rather than aiming for gritty espionage or cyberpunk dystopia, Skin Deep sets its sights on something more interesting. Comedy, specifically the kind of chaos that happens when you trip over a bar of soap and break a window. Because of that, it becomes one of the best crash courses in immersive sim thinking, a game that teaches you how to play it by letting you break it. Where most developers try and sand off the rough edges to create a power fantasy, Skin Deep makes your messy solutions the whole point. You play as Nina, a barefoot space insurance agent with a third lung and an auto-defibrillator. Your mission? Infiltrate spaceships, take out space pirates, and rescue a crew of space cats.
Meow Corp is here.
Your tools? Whatever isn't nailed down. Bars of soap, loose screws, walkie-talkies. You bleed from stepping on glass, hide in lockers, and get knocked unconscious by rogue objects. You dispatch pirates by stunning them, leaping on their backs and smashing them into walls, before flushing their heads down the toilet and watching them get vacuumed into space. It's a stealth game that's as much Looney Tunes as it is Die Hard, and sure, while it's not the cleanest immersive sim, it might just be the most honest. What pulled me into Skin Deep was its demo during Steam Next Fest, a short but sharp vertical slice that hinted at something special. But the more I dug into the game, the more fascinating it became, not just because of the chaos, but because of the pedigree behind it. And sure, while you don't need to know that background to enjoy Skin Deep, understanding its lineage only deepened my appreciation. Skin Deep is the latest from Blendo Games, one of the original indie auteurs from the pre-YouTube days, back when discovering a cool new game meant scouring the early blogosphere or reading the front half of Edge magazine. At the center of Blendo is Brendan Chung, a former EA developer turned one-man creative engine who uses industry knowledge to create theatrical experiments in the Quake engine. Not shooters, but miniature plays performed with guns. While his early experiments earned plenty of attention, his best known piece might be 2012's 30 Flights of Loving, a digital cult classic that told a fragmented heist story using cinematic techniques like jump cuts and montage. Its blocky art style was distinctive, but what really stood out was its rhythm. Punchy, mysterious, and full of clever ellipses that left you piecing the narrative together yourself. Even now, over a decade later, few games have matched its economy of storytelling, which is why Skin Deep is such a fascinating pivot, and in some ways a dilemma, because you can feel the tension between old and new, between script and system. The game's interstitial missions are pure chung, tight, authored, and unmistakably his voice, but the real genius of Skin Deep isn't in its plot, it's in the simulation, the way systems bounce off each other and let you do far more than most stealth games allow. It's here that Skin Deep fully embraces the immersive sim spirit, and with it a different kind of comedy, not the dialogue-driven setups of Monkey Island, but the reactive slapstick absurdity of something like Ghost Simulator. And it works, quite brilliantly. The systems are designed to bend, break, and rebound with charm. There's an item called the duper that lets you copy key objects. Have one cat key? Well, now you have 5. Need another hacking grenade? Just dupe it. It turns puzzle gates into invitations for mischief, and at the same time, the game is remarkably forgiving. You'll find lost and found machines to recover lost items, and repair bots that automatically fix sabotage terminals. The design encourages you to poke holes in the system, to be messy, curious, and wrong, and without ever punishing you too harshly for it. That's not even mentioning the fact that these ships aren't fully sealed off, because in many missions you can actually head outside and approach them from the exterior. I won't spoil the best set pieces here though, they're far more fun when you stumble into them yourself. If there is a downside to Skin Deep, aside from what hardware you're running on, for instance, I played it on a Steam Deck and recorded it on my Mac, which was its own adventure, it's the game's scope. Some levels blur together and the best solutions can get a bit repetitive, but Skin Deep encourages replay in ways that are both playful and surprising. Levels are short and each ends with a rating screen that nudges you to try something different, but this isn't a game like Dishonored or Prey where replay is about optimization or moral roleplay. Here it's about experimentation, doing things just to see what happens. And Skin Deep rewards that curiosity. One level contains a fully functioning fast food station where fulfilling meal orders earns you extra weapons. Another is set in a sprawling library, where your bonus comes not from preserving knowledge, but from destroying books. Some levels mess with the fundamentals, like removing your digital map and forcing you to rely on an old-school "you are here" signs to navigate. Others complicate the layout with block routes or verticality. These tweaks make each mission feel distinct, even within the game's limited structure, and they reinforce the immersive sim roots. These aren't just levels, they're spaces. Designed for gameplay, sure, but with a lived-in logic. There's a reason there's a vending machine or a kitchen or a repair bay. Even the absurd stuff like the duplication gun or the chatty cats feels grounded in the game's version of reality. You get the sense that someone lives here, even if it's just for the sake of a punchline. In the end, maybe that's the best way to explain what an immersive sim really is. A game where a plan can fall apart, and often failing forward is more interesting than a success. And in that spirit, Skin Deep is a fantastic entry point. It won't overwhelm you with choice and won't lock you into right answers. It gives you just enough chaos to get into trouble, and just enough tools to escape it. And so, you should play Skin Deep. Not because it's perfect, but because it understands that you aren't either.